There is pressure. There is fundamental pressure. Now, I used to do. I was
just
telling
the existence of the FBI saying,
asking
hey,
something.
You should do
Can
this.
you look at this?
When the government asks, that is pressure, and to say that it's not is ridiculous.
Yeah,
if the government
you don't hold that principle on a bunch of other things.
Yes, we do. Here, let me explain to you why. I used to work for Congress. I used to do casework. I was explaining this to Isabella the other day, right? And we would advocate for our constituents, and sometimes we would have to advocate for our constituents to say like American Airlines or a company that wasn't a federal agency. And when we did that, we had to make sure we said, can you give this request consideration, full and fair consideration under the law? However, even though we put that stipulation in there, we knew by the government coming to ask them that we were exerting pressure because they're like, oh, a congressman asked for this to happen, right? And what happens is that they know that if you have histories of not complying, that they can come and like investigate your business.
They have endless resources.
And they've been doing that. The DOJ, don't they have an open investigation under
I would love
X right
to flesh out that principle because it feels like you really limitedly apply it. For example, Trump, because he doesn't like certain coverage, saying CBS should be taken off the air, ABC should be taken off the air, and saying the MSNBC should be targeted by the government. Explicitly his words, you can look up the True Social.
Yeah, he did.
Does anyone here agree? Like, I don't think that's okay. Obviously.
None of y'all are fixated on that, whereas Harris, I still haven't seen the clip.
I just pulled it up, but I'm seeing here that like it's a fact check, not totally accurate. So I want to be good about what it says. And you, Callan, I put it in the thing, but you can look
again. Yeah. So I'm sure there's some random lefties who are too pro censorship and stuff like that. But I'm looking at people in positions of power because then I know that they're actually relevant to political discourse. Trump's the only one I've heard overtly calling for censorship, which is why he would be the more anti-free speech candidate.
Okay. So here's what I want to say to that, right? When I tell you that like mass people, and they've shown data to support this, were being pulled off of social media outlets, right? Like they were the ones. If you look at the data, there is another graph too that shows now that Elon Musk bought Twitter, it's an even split. It's almost identical.
That was a CNN.
It was a CNN, right?
Of people using the
platform. And before it was skewed so far to the left. And that is not because of usage. That is because they were deactivating so many accounts.
A lot of it's because of liberals not using the platform anymore. But I've looked into
they went to Blue Sky in the last month?
We've there's been analyses that have demonstrated that it's because right-wingers violate the term of service. Now, you could say the term of service should be different, and that's totally fine. Well, okay, so and I have issues with term of service sometimes whenever videos of mine get taken down or whatever, but that's different than the left or Democrats have
so now, I want to push back on that idea. The idea.
Do you understand the distinction, though? It seems like...
the point that I'm making, though, is when you say violate the terms of service, this speaks to something that actually Tim made a point about when he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, right? So if you say, like, if you make remarks about trans people, if you dead name someone, that is something that you could lose your Twitter account, you could get locked out for dead naming. But that isn't because of that's an ideological position. That's not like if you say, oh, you're violating the terms of service because you're harassing someone because you didn't dead name them. That's an ideological position.
Right. It's not like constant harassment. And the things is that the terms of service were so vague.
Yeah, they're ambiguous. No, they're not specific.
Terms of service. If the terms of service if the people making the judgment about the terms of service are ideologically...
I disagree with you. Of course.
You just said that it was... That didn't.
And I do take issue with the terms of service.
What is racism? What are these different things? What is hate speech? All of that's going to be completely subjective. Obviously,
and by the
that's
way,
just the way that
target people
private
on the
platforms.
Right.
The only way that you can make this a constitutional issue is if you like nationalized social media platforms.
No, because the government trying to use a third party to censor is illegal as well, and that's something the Supreme Court has found. So if the government is pressuring social media companies to block people or to boot them off the platform, that's a violation of their constitutional rights too. So you can't say that the only way.
Totally fine. I agree they shouldn't pressure. You're also not really making a right or left issue because that's something that the Trump administration part a lot. And Trump actually says it more overtly. So it sounds like you're for the Democratic Party.
Go ahead.
Sitting with a bunch of Democrats, then awesome.
Because I remember a few years ago, congressional Democrats putting pressure on social media company owners to start censorship. And even just right before the 2024 election, Adam Schiff, what did Trump call him? Shifty Schiff with his long neck, whatever, pencil neck Schiff.
Watermelon head.
He demands social media companies take action in advance of 2024 election to address spread of election misinformation, which they also did with COVID. They were censoring doctors and anyone that had different opinions regarding the efficacy of the COVID vaccine.
And the Hunter Biden laptop. But
spreading misinformation. Right. They censored the New York Post.
Right. So here's the difference, right?
You're circling, not addressing
that?
I'm getting to your point. That's what I want to do.
Okay.
Do you consider like social media the town square at this point in our given digital age society? Like back in the day, think about like in the 1800s, everybody go to the corner and talk, right? And if you removed somebody from that square and they couldn't talk anymore, right? Then you would be violating their First Amendment right? Like they can't, you're not allowed to say that like here on the street corner.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon. So subscribe and come hang out.